Could I get a roll call, please?
Hartke. Here. Quisenberry. Here. Rector. Here. Rosales.
Here.
Schwartz. Maxwell. Anderson.
Could I get a motion to approve the agendas, today's agenda? Moved by Harkey. Could I get a second? Jack Anderson, second. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, any questions? Any changes? I believe we have we would like to remove item 7, request approval of authorization of updated fiscal year 16 capital assets project. That handout, we're not going to be discussing that today, so that'll be removed. Okay.
If I might, just to,
Sure.
that's being asked to be removed because as of last Thursday morning, we were considering taking a portion of the cost for the replacement of the nursing home boilers from funds that were left in the capital asset fund. And as of Thursday's special meeting, vote was taken, and it's coming out of the Ameren fund or dollars that were given to the county for use of county property. So there was no need to bring that forward.
Great. Thank you, Dana. Item number 8, request approval of authorization for ITB number 2016-009, Champaign County ADA compliance interiors work. Could I get a motion to approve that? So moved. Moved by Quisenberry, second by Jack. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Great. Motion passes. Any questions? Comments? Wow. Moving fast, faster than. Going back to item 4. Thank you, Josh, or John. Item 4, approval of the minutes from August 2nd. What was that?
We're all good. Sorry.
Okay, could I get a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Rector. Motion by Jack. Any public participation? Okay, now you guys threw me off here. Okay. Do we just vote on it? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? They passed. Great. Patsy, have any questions? Public participation? None today? How did I miss the whole section? I jumped from the agenda down to item number 7.
Dinner must be hot.
And item number 8, we don't discuss any of the A and B items? Item number 8? Okay, and that included those two.
Yes.
Okay, item 9, facilities action plan proposed. It was a handout that Rick Schneider passed. This was the handout that was given to you once before, about a month ago. It actually has been cleaned by county manager, and it looks a little bit better than what was presented to you, but it's pretty much, in a nutshell, what we passed out about a month ago. And I believe with the one omission, right, Rick?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I just want to talk a little bit about what this handout represents. The information that's in here is what was presented previously to the board in a couple other meetings. It's a lot. Most of the content here is drawn from the memo that you received from me. What we did was, in response to some of the comments made, we removed the prioritization, the A, B, and C section that had been in here, which had been objected to some. Also, what we did was we added the last portion of the document. You'll see there's an extensive list of all of the deferred maintenance items. So basically, this is a line item list of all the expenditures that were included in the $22 million that were included in the Bailey Edwards study, and also the most recent information provided by Mr. Dana Brenner on the items that we would proceed with if we were to advance the quarter-cent facility sales tax. So this includes all the items that we would work on if we have that revenue available to us. So there really isn't a lot of new information other than just some additional supporting details in here. In speaking with the committee chair, Mr. Maxwell, the intent is that we would maybe advance this to committee of the whole so that it could be voted on then by the county board. But it's supposed to represent what we think would be the projects that would be included in the expenditure list for a facility sales tax project. So I don't know if there's any questions on that. I don't know if I've cleared up anything for anyone.
Quisenberry?
All right, thank you. Mr. Snyder, could you talk a little bit about, you've made the suggestion that we could look at maybe leaving this building and consolidating staff in downtown Urbana. This list has a lot of work to be done on Brookins as a facility. In the context of your suggestion, what would be the timeline, and what of these things that are on this list would we try to avoid by getting out of this building?
Take a look at page 12.
Can you turn on your microphone, please?
If you take a look at page 12 of the handout, you'll see there's a budget summary for all the deferred maintenance items. And you'll notice that there is a line called out for Brookins specifically. There's about $4.9 million worth of work for this building in total over the next 10 years. And if you see, the bottom has all projects listed. That's about $28 million. The recommended projects would be about $22 million, and that the difference there is partly due to eliminating the Brookins expenses as projects.
Okay, what else is eliminated by that?
Animal control, one of the other suggestions in the preliminary plan was that because of the high cost of the deferred maintenance for that building, we consider spending a little bit more and building a new permanent facility for that, something that would last a lot longer than what we have now. The current building is, I think some of you may have seen today during the tour, is it's a repurposed building that was originally the facility for physical plant operations, and it's been remodeled into the animal control building. But there's a lot of deficiencies there. The roof, the lack of air conditioning in the kennel areas, drainage issues with the kennel areas so that when they're cleaned, water not leaving properly out of there. And there's electrical issues, so there's a number of things. It seems like rather than trying to make that into a better facility, it might be better just to eliminate that and build from scratch.
Yeah, I was on the tour, and it was very useful to get some context for that building. I didn't realize that it had originally been, or at least part of it, had been the physical plant building, and then it had gotten bigger by additions put on by county staff, essentially. And so if you're on the inside of the building, it is, I'd say it's fairly well maintained on the inside. A lot of it looks in pretty good shape on the inside, but the floors are a problem for the kind of use that it has, particularly in the major stray dog kennel and in the area where they do surgeries. I was curious because I'm looking around inside the building, and lots of it seems to be well maintained. But then Mr. Brenner shared with me that the roof is like a sieve in many ways, and the exterior metal skin of the building is probably the oldest part of the building I could have looked at while I was there. And the fact that it got repurposed from basically being a workshop. I think those extra spaces were workshops into a place where you're keeping animals, and cleaning up after animals is a little bit different than, sweeping up sawdust and things like that. So while parts of the building, I had to ask myself, parts of this building don't look like something I'd get rid of. It is not designed for what it's being used for, and it does have problems that are going to probably be a significant portion of its value, its existing value, to get it back into shape, and then it still wouldn't be a building designed for animal control. So it was very useful, I think, Mr. Brenner and Stephanie Juice, for taking us through the space so we could see those and up close and personal kind of issues, and it helps a lot when I'm looking at these things to know what's going on rather than just see it as text on the page.
Rachel?
So back to the list of deferred maintenance, you were mentioning to move it to COW. Is that to finance? Or, I'm not sure. I mean, my interest in having it, in general, I think that when we approved the 1/4% sales tax referendum, we never put with it a plan of what we're planning to do with it. We have your plan, but the county board never approved it, and so the complaint in the paper was somewhat justified. It sounded like the county board doesn't really know what it wants to do with the money. So obviously, we need to have the county board say, here's a plan. So I understand that this is part of the plan, but can we see like a general, not the facilities part of that, but when it moves either to COW Finance or to the board, we probably need to see the whole thing, right, including the jail? The one that you had in the memo, the short version memo that you gave to all county board members?
Right, and then in the back part of this document, it also includes information about the corrections consolidation.
So where is it? Which page?
That's, if you look at, starting at page 14, and you'll see discussion of some of the design issues, some of the things that we're trying to address, including the visitation, the contact visitation, the medical needs, the separation needs. That's all listed here.
So
And
that's
this
the
is
26 million on page 19? Is that what, so we have two lists, one is deferred maintenance and one is development projects, so it would be under that?
right. So the development projects would include because it's going to be either new construction or something that we're not currently doing. So it includes the 12.7 for the satellite, the 3 million for the sheriff's office, the 5 million that we put in for behavioral health, however that ends up being spent. Garage consolidation, which is another item listed on the deferred maintenance list. We have a lot of small garages that we think we could, because of the extensive list of needs there, we might be better off building a central garage facility. Certainly get some economies of scale by doing the building that way.
Okay, I mean, I guess, I understand we're in facilities, so we're not supposed to be talking about the money part, but you can't totally separate that. And at some point, either it goes straight to the board or it goes to finance. But we do need to put these together, I think. Is that the plan, or does anybody have a plan on where we're going from that?
Patsy, is that committee still in play, the one that combines the facilities and the finance committee?
Yes, it is.
What Rachel is referring to, would it go to that subcommittee?
That would be an appropriate course. I was waiting for the facility committee to get this plan. I knew it was coming to you all to hear your input. That then could go to that special committee.
Oh, I'm sorry, Quisenberry?
Well, yeah, I heard earlier that we were going to potentially send this to Cal without recommendation, but it has to be, I assume it's to the finance portion of Cal. Is that correct?
I think, that we didn't just really discuss that with the chair. So I think he wants that this plan be approved or reviewed by the board and decide if this represents what the priorities will be for the spending plan.
More
So I
than
guess we-
just the facilities committee is what he's shooting for, right? It's not specifically finance at COW, it's because COW has the full board participating. But COW is the appropriate place because he wants committee discussion rather than specific board action.
Correct.
Okay, I can go along with that being the target. That we're going to talk about it here some, and it needs to be talked about in the finance area of the committee of the whole to discuss the financial implications. If that makes sense to you, Rachel.
My
Patsy?
understanding was the goal was to get the input of this committee first before it proceeded to any other place within the structure of our committees. So that's why it's here.
Could we recommend no recommendation and move it forward? Or does it have to be approved by this committee and then move it forward?
No, I don't think it has to have a vote. It's my understanding, he's not here. My understanding was that he wanted to get input from the facilities committee as the first order. If you just want to pass it with a recommendation, you want to take a vote, that's up to you all.
Jack?
You know, this coming before us this evening, I wouldn't be prepared to make any recommendation with regard to its content. But in light of the fact that this is coming up to the voters in November, I think it's paramount that we get this out to the other board members, you know, the COW, as an informational piece at this point, as a concept of what we're looking at on the expenditure of those potential funds, so that when their constituents ask them, should I vote yes or no, and what would my vote mean, where would that money go, they can refer to this document. And explain it's conceptual at this point, but it's also contingent upon whether or not the referendum passes. Because if it doesn't, then it's a whole nother issue because of the funding. Thank you.
Quisenberry?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure what the value or impact of us passing this would be at this point because there's no money. And in fact, honestly, I read through the facilities conditions report. I know Dana doesn't believe it, but I wanted the whole thing to look at it. And there's nothing new here. These are the big ticket items that were in the facilities condition report that we got, back in November originally for this committee roughly. And the full board then got to see at least a subset of it. So, I think it's fine for us to talk about this here, but I don't see any problem with asking the committee of the whole take a look at it at finance without this committee actually, anointing it or passing it or whatever you're talking about, because there's no impact on passing it at this point because there's no money, and a future board, if there is money, can choose which parts of it acts on when they actually get around to it and start collecting the money.
Rachel?
Well, I think the big difference is not so much the deferred maintenance, but the new projects, right? So it's a cow thing, I agree with you, and it's a board thing, it's not facilities, but it's not true that there is nothing new, because before Rick came up with his plan to do the scaled-down version of the sheriff, this was not the number. You were talking about numbers that were way higher. So I think at some point the board needs to say, yes, this is the plan, and if we're going for the tax, if you'll approve the tax, here's what we're thinking of doing with that. Of course, it's subject to whatever the new board will do and so on. But right now, we have no plan in place. It looks like we're asking for money with no plan on how to spend it. So that part is certainly new.
Okay.
And I think that's for me, that's the important part to say, and that's where finance needs to come in. I'm not sure that if you add up these numbers between deferred maintenance and new projects, that we have enough money in the quarter-cent sales tax. And I think what has to happen there is, partly I think that the start and end has to be programmed a little better, because when is the year that all the bonds get paid off, 2029 or something? Okay, so the money that comes from quotas and sales tax, if approved, some of it can go to deferred maintenance without bonding anything, right? Some of it can be bonded for some of these projects. And then some of these projects can be bonded later, depending on whether they can actually wait that long. But I think once it gets to, finance, facilities can talk about everything ignoring money, because we have this weird way of doing things. When you get to finance, you actually need to check if the numbers add up. So I think we need to work on that. But I certainly think the board needs to take some vote to say, yes, this is what we're thinking of doing with the money. Otherwise, how come you're asking people to approve without a tenant? That's my view on what's new here that we didn't have before.
Quisenberry?
So then I would consider making a motion to refer this to the finance area of the committee of the whole without recommendation.
Motion by Quisenberry to move this item forward to, without a recommendation, to the COW, the finance portion of it. And then I got a second from Josh Harkey. Quisenberry. Yes, Quisenberry?
Yeah, now would be the time for us to discuss anything that we want to flesh out in preparation for that discussion at the Finance Committee. So if you want to say things about particular items on here, like we don't need to do that, or we think that's too much, or we think it's too little, this is when we could do that from a facility standpoint, so that we're actually talking about the part that we should talk about and leave the actual number crunching for the discussion at Finance.
Rector?
I agree with everything so far, but this is non-binding. I mean, it's informational and recommendation all the way through from COW to the county board. I mean, we can change, the future board can change everything. So everything is a recommendation and nothing is binding. Would that be correct? I mean, I'm just trying to understand. I'm not,
Yeah, true.
okay, thanks.
We're not going to be making the decision. This board won't, right? Quisenberry?
Yeah, I think it's important, even though I say it all the time that we can't bind the future board, I think it's very important for this board to communicate the intent of the request and what the goals of it are, because that's actually, it's not all-powerful, but it is somewhat powerful to guide the future board members to understand what context that this money was asked under and what promises were made. We can't make them deliver on those promises necessarily, but we can certainly give the public a tool to use in the future if they think the future boards are deviating from the ask.
I believe that, are there any further questions before I make a comment? Yes,
It's not a
Schwartz.
question. I think on the behavioral health, since we're talking about what we do and don't need, I mean, this is something that sort of popped up in your proposal. I don't think we've ever had it before. And I know that, again, we're blurring the lines here between facilities and finance, but because we have no ability whatsoever to finance the operations of that behavioral health center, I would take it out. Or just like you have this on these other, you call it recommended versus others, so yeah, put it somewhere else. I mean, there is a difference, because there is a difference between the sheriff's office, that we've been talking about, I don't know for how long, and now we have a shorter version of a condensed, smaller program. That's one thing. And this one popped up from nowhere with no real plan on who's going to staff it, how we're going to fund it. Do we really want to get into, I hear all the time that we don't need to be in the business of nursing homes. Why do we need to get into the business of mental health? I mean, before we go there, we need a little bit more serious discussion, and do we really want to go there? So I'm not saying to totally eliminate, but just separate that in terms of what do you call it? Development projects. Separate, because it's such a new idea that was never really discussed fully. I would take it out and just call it whatever you want to call it, but something else. That's my suggestion.
Jack, you had a question?
I like Rachel's idea.
Rick?
The inclusion of the behavioral health was an attempt to leverage the facility sales tax. Obviously, there's restrictions on what we can do with it. We can do things that are facilities related, but we can't provide for staffing or other things. So it's in one sense a contribution the county could make using that money. But you are correct, it's not fully fleshed out. There's still work going on with the CRPC to decide exactly how behavioral health services would be delivered, who are the players and who's the staff and where the money's going to come from. So I guess it would be up to the board to, include it or not include it in the final plan.
Yeah, I mean, we can include it, at least it's there, and it can be removed later if it doesn't move forward, or at least there was some thought at this point to have the funds allocated for it if it came to be later. I guess you go either way with it. But I don't have I'm not opposed to having it in there, it's just, it is new. I guess, no, I'll just leave it at that.
One more comment.
Yes, Ms. Schwartz.
My concern has always been that when we fund buildings, we find the funds to build them, and we never have any thought whatsoever about how we're going to maintain them. So when we add one more facility, I can see that maybe the numbers are going to work out to maybe build it. I don't see any plan whatsoever how we're going to maintain it. So that's the other concern I have. It's not just, that's unrelated to do we want to be in mental health or not. So the rest of them are either deferred maintenance, obviously these are buildings we need to deal with, or moving from Brookings and so on. This is a totally new facility, and if we do want to include it, I would like to see a list of what future maintenance are going to be on that, and have that as part of the pricing, because I'm so fed up with finding the money to build it and then never have the money to maintain it, and then we're back to deferred maintenance that we never had money to do. So I don't think we should start one more of these.
Mr. Snyder?
Ms. Schwartz, just a point of clarification. So when you're talking about maintenance, you mean just for the facility itself, right? You're not including all the operations and everything?
Yeah, just, I don't know, they had this, what's the formula for whatever? Yeah, whatever that formula thing is, whatever that formula is of what you're supposed to be putting in every year once you have a new facility, or any facility, yeah, let's not pretend that it's zero.
Patsy, you had any comments, questions?
I don't have any, but I do encourage everybody to put your comments out so Mr. Snyder can integrate them for the document that gets to the committee of the whole, because so far you've made some very good points, and he's taking notes.
So I think it's very important for us to get out a message, because the message now that's in the public's eye is that we don't know what we're doing, and we're asking the citizens of this county to be taxed, and then we're going to get this money for 12 years, and our priorities are a little out of whack. So I think allowing enough time to look over this document, make some notations, passing those on or emailing those to Rick, so that Rick could clear or clean the document again, so that the rest of the board could look at it and then make some decisions coming out of the cow, so that we could hopefully pass something that's more concrete in the board meeting. So does anybody want to make a motion? What was that?
Just send it to Cal.
Oh, is that on the floor?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes to move this without recommendation to committee of the whole.
Can we make sure all the board members get this as soon as possible? Yeah.
Thank you for putting this together, Rick, and cleaning it up as well. Now I know what my confusion was. When I was doing basically approval of the agenda, we jumped to 7 because of the fact that that was going to be omitted, and then we ran from 7 down.
It's my fault.
So I said, well, 7, and then the next one is 8. So we'll save communications for last. So don't think I forgot about that one, which I did, but that's irrelevant. Item number 10, Dana, Facilities Director's Report.
Thank you, sir. Quick update on our boiler replacement project here at Brookings. We're probably about 95% done. The boilers are in, they've been plumbed. They're ready to go with the one exception of the new flues that were ordered 3 weeks ago are on back order and have not arrived. So we'll have a little powwow tomorrow with the engineer and the contractor to see if there's another possible solution, although the contractor was to talk to the manufacturer of the flues late this afternoon and be ready for that discussion tomorrow. So, but it's moving along nicely. I did include the document for DCEO. We have applied, and our grant was acknowledged that it's been received, so we would hope to hear something in the next month. And if you remember, that grant would give us a little shy of $19,000 of a rebate for the installation of new boilers here for Brookins. So, but the contractor's doing a great job. Yes, we are slightly behind our initial proposed schedule. We were to get into substantial completion as of Friday of last week, and we're virtually there with the exception of the flues. The remainder of this week, they'll be pumping in glycol to winterize pod 300s. Piping that goes onto the roof, that's so when winter's here and it's below freezing, we don't freeze up our lines. We'll put in about 30% glycol in pod 300 and about 15% in pod 200, which are basically indoor, but just in case we have some sort of guffaw here at the building and it gets cold inside for some reason, we do like to protect those systems from freezing because they make really big messes when they break and freeze. So, any questions about the boiler project here at Brookins? Hearing none.
Seeing none?
We'll move on to the precast wall project, which basically is just the painting of County Highway. County Highway did make a paint determination finally early last month. Painter has begun. I shared some photos within the document with you. He's about 85% complete in painting 2 coats onto the exterior of the building. 3 sides are completely done, and probably about 15-20% of the north side of the building is complete. So we anticipate that he should be completely done sometime early next week, providing Mother Nature allows us to paint all day this week. So. A new one, update on a Veterans Memorial. Some of you may or may not be aware of the Veterans Memorial at the corner of Main and Broadway. That was given to the association, Veterans Association, given it was leased to the Veterans Association a number of years ago. That association has become defunct, no longer in existence. Several of the members have passed away. They were supposed to provide, insurance. They were supposed to take care of the facility. We still have gardeners that are coming in and volunteering their time and taking care of it. But a couple veterans who came to us basically and said, here it is, we're no longer business, we can't keep up. Costs probably about $800 to $900 a year to replace the flags, let alone any maintenance work that needs to be done on it. I did have it looked at. There was a proposal in here from Autobomb, which are a tuck pointing group, and for $2,500, we did need to do some work. That has been done. Similar to our precast building issue joint problem that we had last year. The joints needed to be replaced. They were aging tremendously. Water was going into the joints themselves, and winter had already done a little bit of damage to the memorial. So we've taken care of that. We have talked to the state's attorney about what needs to be done for the county itself, and they have put together a letter back to the group. So we're kind of working out the final arrangements to attempt to take back over and take care of this area. We've had several veterans groups basically state that they're going to assist with donations for flags for replacement. There was a little bit of money left with the Veterans Association group, about $4,500. Won't last that long. They are paying for the $2,500 for the tuck pointing work at the memorial. Physical plant has taken care of some of the rust showing on the handrails. We've sanded that off and repainted all the handrails and done a little work behind the memorial to ensure that it stays looking good. And we'll be watching it over apparently the years to come. So, any questions? There were photos too within the document in the handout that was behind the Autobahn, so you had a little idea of what was happening there. Next update is another new one. Dobbins Down Playground. Dobbins Down, as we call it, was actually a single lot in Dobbins Down that the county acquired because the property was in such bad shape back in 2003. I think the county picked it up, put a lien on it, knocked down an old house. It was a sore site for the community and a danger. County, I think, continued to mow the property for a while until about '06 or '07. I think it's in the contract back there. When a group approached, or 2010, excuse me, when a group approached the county, excuse me, about placing a playground, getting a grant to put in a playground for the neighborhood. The county put together a lease. It was good for 5 years with annual one-year renewals. The association would provide an insurance policy naming the county as additionally insured for a specified amount and lease the property basically for $1 a year. Good thing to do for the community since the county really does not want to own and take care of a lot. The community would also take care of it. Well, that association has disbanded. Folks have moved away. Now the neighborhood is complaining and complaining loud enough that it's an eyesore, but more appropriately, it's a nuisance. It is a gathering point at night for unwanted people into their subdivision. It's a gang hangout as well for some reason. So the county has taken steps to disband it. Planning and zoning has put up a fence around it until we can take down the playground equipment. It was up for about half of a month before it was damaged. Physical plan has gone out and wired up, fixed up to the best of our ability. To date on the fence, we are continuing to check it. There's about 20 feet of missing fence that you can see in the one photo that I passed around. There is one piece of playground equipment that we picked up last week as well that had been broken. Big spring in it. The car vehicle that's in the picture is in our shop being repaired. In the meantime, we've talked to Head Start program about the possibility of taking the playground equipment and using it. Might also add, we did speak and had several conversations with the Park District of Urbana. They have acknowledged that it's in fairly good shape, but yet they will not use it. Head Start program has someone going out to give them a price quote of dismantling it, which would be great for us because it would not cost us $1 then to dismantle it and to reinstall it at one of their locations. Our job with this is that we've got to eventually take this equipment down and ready the lot to be utilized in a manner conducive for a subdivision, meaning returning it to its kind of original state. One of the thoughts that county administrator and I have had is maybe looking into donating the lot possibly to a program that could build homes there as a possibility, or other opportunities. Not sure of the value of the property. We obviously will have to find that out and get a determination. But what's got to happen in the next 30 days is we really got to take a hard look at putting together a plan to take the equipment down, take out the fence, and restoring the property to what it was, so that we can move forward. Questions?
I understand you have to do this. That's kind of sad. I actually worked, they had a big work day, and they had some federal, or a national group that had the funding, and they brought in, it was really cool. The neighbors all came out and built something really cool. So, I mean, I understand you got to do this. It's just, it's sad because they really wanted it, and then they've got it, and then, so, and congratulations to you to try to repurpose all the equipment. Thank you.
The equipment actually is in fairly good shape. We've gone out a couple of times to try and remove some of the graffiti that was put out there. Champaign Park District as well has been out on a couple of occasions over the years to do similar work out there. So, but the neighborhood is really concerned, and that's kind of what's brought us to where we're at today, that it's really a nuisance, and they're worried about the draw from unwanted activity in their community.
Any other questions, concerns? Patsy?
If you and Mr. Snyder do decide that it would be appropriate to make an arrangement for housing to be built there, Susan Jones is your contact person in Neighborhood Services at the city.
I have a question, Dana. Once the equipment is removed, would that fence be taken down and grass will be growing so that nobody will get hurt? Is that the idea?
That's the idea, is that everything would be removed. You can kind of see, looking at some of the photos, there's a black plastic that goes around the entire play structure equipment. About half of the wood chips that were put down as a protective layer underneath the equipment are still there. The other half's outside of the area and on the site. But once, I mean, there's a significant amount of concrete as a foundation for supports. So all of that will have to be removed and refilled. And
What's the size of the lot?
that I don't know. I've walked it, but I honestly don't remember. It's not that big. If you look from the photos, it's not like they have a tremendous big backyard as you look from the north side. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, if you look from the north side, it's the last photo. You know, that lot itself is not very big. Those are 8-foot section fences, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Looks like 8 pieces that runs east and west.
Dana, is that lot in Hensley Township? I can't remember which side of the road is on.
Say it again, Patsy.
Is the lot in Hensley Township? or-
That I don't know. Project planning, zoning and planning would know that for sure.
Okay.
I do not.
I could talk to Habitat.
That's
Yeah.
thought of to talk to, just haven't reached out.
Well, thank you for your report, Dana. I totally appreciate that, and how sad for that community not to have a play area for the youth. Okay, item 9, actually, 11, other business. Semi-annual review of closed minutes. There are no closed minutes to review. We had a legal opinion regarding closed minute sessions and minutes, and so we don't have any of those available, so therefore, nothing will be read or moved upon. Item number 12. Yes, quiz?
Do we need a motion to keep the closed minutes closed?
Yes, we do.
Then I so move.
Second by Josh, moved by Quisenberry, moved to keep the closed minutes All those in favor? Aye. Any Anybody opposed? Well, it passes. Great. Thank you, Quiz, for reminding me. Chair's report, there's a future meeting Tuesday, October 4th, at 6:30 in this building. But prior to that, we'll be doing a tour of the MedCat Center, and we were to be meeting there at 5:15 and conclude by 6:10. We'll be touring the MedCat building, located at 1905 East Main in Urbana. We expect to see most of you or all of you there. Item 13, designation of items to be placed on the consent agenda. I believe is only one, which is 8, item 8. Item 7 was dropped, omitted. So item 8 will be the only item on consent. And then facilities action plan proposal, Rick, that doesn't need to be on consent or any of that, right? It just gets moved directly forward? Great. Any communications before I ask for a motion to adjourn? No communications? Well, thank you one and all for coming. Jack moves to adjourn. Could I get a second? Josh Harkey, second. All those in favor? Aye. Great, we're adjourned. That was quick.